Hello and welcome to this short reflection on the readings for the 24th Sunday of the year. One Saturday morning many years ago, I was sitting in my office with my spiritual director. At that time, I was the head teacher of a large comprehensive school. It was a rewarding ministry to be engaged in, with many opportunities for getting to know many people quite well. I used to say when asked about life in the school, it's so interesting, the whole of life is here. Inevitably, life has its ups and downs. A school with well over 1,000 teenage boys is sure to have its many challenges. And I guess I was speaking about these when my director stopped me, and he looked around my office and asked me why I didn't have a crucifix in the room. I had to admit that this was very remiss of me and said I would get one as soon as I could. Why did he ask the question? I remember his reply. Because unless some part of you is hanging with Jesus on the cross, you're not living your life as you should. In the years since, some sayings of Jesus have struck me as underlying this wise man's comments. Where I am, there will my servant be also, is one comment of Jesus. The servant is no greater than his master, is another. In other words, those of us who say we follow Jesus and seek to live his gospel with as much integrity as we can muster, in a world which much of the time does not recognize its value, are sure to experience something of the suffering and dying of Jesus in our own lives. This is all of great importance to people like me, to Jesuits, and to others who follow the pathway to God marked out by Ignatius Loyola. The story was told of Ignatius that he was travelling along the Via Cassia one day in 1537. He was going to Rome, where he would offer himself and his companions to the Pope for the service of the church. He called in to a roadside shrine dedicated to Our Lady in the village of La Storta, and there, as he later said, he felt deep within him that the Father had placed him alongside Jesus carrying his cross. We are most companions of Jesus when we too are alongside him carrying his cross. All this is relevant to our gospel reading for this Sunday. In a familiar story, Jesus is asking his disciples, "Who do people say I am?" And Peter responds, on behalf of them all, "You are the Christ." Clearly, Peter did not appreciate what he was saying. Jesus then teaches the disciples what being the Christ means. And in keeping with the words of the prophet Isaiah in our first reading, it involves suffering and death and then the resurrection. He goes on to say that his disciples must also take up their crosses and follow him. As they do so, they have a sure hope, as sure as Jesus himself, that those who follow him in his suffering and death will also share in his resurrection. We really show we believe in Jesus not only when we say he is the Christ, but also when we live his gospel. This involves going to the help of those in need, as St. James says in the second reading of this Sunday's Mass, or speaking up for those who are experiencing injustice, or telling others about why following Jesus means so much to us. Yes, there is a risk that in all this we'll get too involved, or experience ridicule, or even outright rejection. There's a risk, in other words, that we will share in Jesus' suffering and death. But when we experience this, we can be encouraged. Firstly, by the fact that at these times we are truly walking alongside Jesus, our companion and friend, as he carries his cross. Secondly, by knowing that as we tread the path Jesus trod, we are being led, along with Jesus, to the eternal happiness of the resurrection. Hence Jesus' words at the end of this Sunday's Gospel reading. For anyone who wants to save his life will lose it, but anyone who loses his life for my sake and for the gospel will save it. Thank you very much.